Well, we're excited tonight about having Maryanne Fleishman-Remsburg here to talk to us tonight. And Maryanne graduated from Corbin several years ago now. And now is back, and her title now is Senior Development Officer. And you just started that just a year ago?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the time between Corbin going and being on staff there's been a lot that she's gone through. She and her husband went to Saudi Arabia and taught for how many years?
We were 12 years in Saudi.
And then how many years in Korea?
3 in Korea and 3 in Kenya.
And 3 in Kenya. Oh,
yeah.
I missed the Kenya one.
You forgot
Okay.
Kenya.
And she's an author. She's written 2 books. She has 4 great kids. And she and her husband have a life coaching ministry. And she's going to be speaking tonight on having an adventurous life with Jesus. But the big thing of having Maryanne here is that she grew up here at Laurelwood in all her growing up years.
Thank you.
And she and my daughters got in trouble. Sometimes not in trouble. No, they had adventures.
Don't tell all my stories I'm about to speak.
Okay. They had adventures, which is another reason to talk about adventures of life.
Yes, we had great adventures.
And she was here while her dad was pastor here. For how many years was he pastor?
10, about
10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And Shirley is here, her mom, and we're glad to see Shirley again. So let me pray for you.
Thank you.
Lord, thank you so much for Maryanne and for what she has to share tonight. Thank you, Lord, that you plan our lives, that you give us opportunities for adventures for you. And Lord, as she shares, I pray that you might give her clarity of thought, that you might give her, fill her with your spirit, that you might take the words she says and translate it to each one of the needs of the women here. Thank you, Lord. We love you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Well, good evening. This is such a treat to be back here. And Carly, I was saying to someone, it's hard for me not to call all these ladies Mrs. Wex and all these things, but Carly was a real mentor to me my first year in college, as well as knowing her daughters well all through middle school and high school here. I used to set up this space. I would set up the chairs and take down the chairs and set up the chairs. That was my high school job for quite a few years, and we had I have a lot of memories here, so this is a very fun space to get to come back and speak to you. I feel very honored. I also will say, if you knew me in my squirrely middle school, high school years, keep faith in the kids that you are having your Sunday school classes and in high school group, because God is working in them. And so keep with them and keep encouraging them. So I am talking to you this evening, about your adventurous life as a disciple of Christ. Some of you, as you hear the word adventure, might say, that's not really for me. I'm not very adventurous. And I want to challenge you tonight to think of yourself as an adventurer in whatever way that is that God's designed you to be, just outside your comfort zone. He's given you special circles of people and experiences that I will never be able to touch or know. Each of you has unique personality and relationships that you can touch if you are willing to step outside what's comfortable for you. We hear this word all the time, adventure. Your adventure starts here. If you really start looking for it, my company is called Adventurous Life Coaching. It's everywhere. I saw it on a mobile home park. Your adventure starts here at the mobile home park. It's everywhere. Have eyes open for adventure. But I want to challenge you that the greatest adventure you can have is with Jesus Christ. And the greatest adventurer you can be is when you're doing something that is for the glory of God. So that's what this is all about as I'm talking about that tonight. And I'm using the disciples as examples. As I was studying on all this, and this is actually in, Carly mentioned I have 2 books here tonight, but this content is actually from a 3rd book that I'm working on getting published. You can pray for me with that. So this one, I'm sorry you're going to have to wait for this, but the same content in a more general audience is available tonight with stories of living overseas. But the disciples tonight we're going to be talking about as our guides to be adventurers. I really see them as the greatest adventurers of all times. They were just normal guys, living their life, doing their jobs, and over a period of not very long, Jesus trained them and pushed them and grew them until they literally changed the world, gave up most everything in their lives and pushed themselves to change the world. If you don't happen to know Jesus yet tonight, I want to invite you to think of that. What would a relationship with him be like? What would an adventure with him be like? And I'm sure someone you came with or someone at your table, or I would love to speak with you about that afterwards. I'll digress for just a moment and go into personal notes since you already gave a few things. Thank you very much. But I was here as a child, I came going into 6th grade in the 80s. I got to the youth group here under Bob Barnes. I grew so much during that time in my life. I'm so thankful for the experience I had here. My dad was the pastor here. Some of you I know that he passed away just recently, and I'm going to actually share something about that in a minute. From here, I went, as she said, overseas, and that really, I think, living adventurously, a lot of people think of that. Oh, that's adventurous. You lived in Kenya and Saudi Arabia. But it really grew my mindset that we can have that same thought process and mindset of looking for new challenges and stepping outside what's comfortable in any area of life, in any stage of life, no matter where you live, no matter what you do. So that is what I try to put in my own life now, even with my kids and training them, and I'm challenging you to do tonight. So we talked about this, me coming here months and months ago to share with you. On August 18th, I was actually sitting by my dad's bedside. He'd been struggling with Alzheimer's for quite a few years, and I was talking to him about this. He wasn't talking back. There wasn't much coming back, but a couple hand squeezes that day. But I was telling him what I would share with you guys, and I actually texted you, and I wrote it down at 4:18. I looked back. I texted you my title for it and what I was going to share. Well, at 7:30 that night, my dad went to be home with the Lord, and today is his birthday. Would have been 85. So it's just like a lot of tie-ins. I'm here in the place he was pastor. I sent the title right before he passed away, and here we are on his birthday. So it's just special night for me to get to share this, and I hope for you as well. So as I mentioned, this is coming from something I've been working on about the disciples. I wrote these 7 coordinates we're going to be going through that adventurers go through. And it's true for adventures that are more physical adventures people think of or challenges, but true for stepping out in your relationship with Jesus Christ. And the 7 coordinates, coordinates like a waypoint along your journey. So these are 7 things that you can expect are going to happen when you're trying something new for the Lord. And I really believe now is an important time for this. I think as Christians that we need to not shrink back and get quiet and play it safe. I think this is really a time that God is calling you and me to step out for him and to really put yourself out there more for him and challenge yourself and speak to people. So I really do encourage you that this is a time to grab on to being an adventurer for Christ. Okay, if you haven't already passed out the worksheets here, this is a little scary as a previous teacher, that's what I did overseas, teacher and school counselor, to give you all the worksheets of the notes so just stick with me on the coordinate I'm on, but I always love to take notes. So I wanted to give you a few things to take notes. There's also reflection questions with each one that you'll want to probably think about more at home. So coordinate number 1, you're starting out on this journey, trying something new for Christ. Coordinate number 1 is know your zone. Our disciple here is James. He's our example. We all have things that are really comfortable for us. For some people, it's hanging back a little more. For some people, it's actually jumping in right away. For different stages of life, you're able to do certain things at certain stages of life that you might not be able to do at others. It's knowing who you are, knowing where you are in life, and understanding that God has made you a certain way. But it doesn't mean you just stay comfortable in that. It's, first of all, you know your zone, though. For some of you, you're saying, I don't want to be uncomfortable. I like being comfortable. I like being right where I know how everything is. And I hope to challenge you a little bit in that tonight. For James, now usually we think of people when we're staying in our comfort zone or we're not doing something for Jesus, we're staying in the comfort zone. But sometimes staying in the comfort zone looks big. For James, he was comfortable taking things into his own hands and being self-sufficient. Him and his brother, he had to realize that was comfortable for him. Just like, I'll figure this out. I got this. He had to step outside of his comfort zone by depending on the Lord more. He had to step outside of his comfort zone by not counting on his own strength, by not calling down fire on a city, by not asking for the important seat next to Jesus and just jumping in for that. He had to slow down. And slowly he began to let go of his desire for power, his desire wanting to be viewed as important, and his life then became about living with God's strength. And that brought God glory. The verse I have for you there is, he must become greater and I must become less. John 3:30. That was James's, how he had to learn, I jump in really fast to stuff. I try to do it all on my own. Watch out though, because sometimes it's that way where your comfort zone is you're out there too fast. But a lot of times it is things that keep us, we want to stay safe. Obstacles like fear, self-doubt, obligation, impatience, even just, I'm busy. The logistics of life can keep you staying in what's comfortable for you. And that does really stop a lot of people from serving the Lord wholeheartedly. They go back to what's safe. They go back to what they know. Sometimes, let's think of it like a grocery store. Some people like going to the same grocery store every single time. They go down the same route every single time. They know exactly where everything is. It's comfortable. It's useful. It costs them a lot in the end. But they don't want to live there. We don't want to live there in things that are comfortable. We don't want a grocery store kind of faith where we never veer off our usual path, especially when God's calling you to do something. So you need to look at yourself. Start with that first reflection question. And again, you won't have time now, but if things come to mind, jot them down now if you want. But I hope you will think about it later. What might you be doing or not doing in order to stay comfortable rather than pushing yourself past your comfort to make a difference for the Lord? So become aware of that. This is first about awareness. How am I staying safe? Is there something maybe God kind of put on my heart and I said, no, I don't want to do that. No, that's uncomfortable. No, I'll just stay where I am. I'm good. I'm going to do it the same how I always do it. So when you're an adventurer, first you have to be aware. You have to be aware of yourself and know your zone. The second coordinate you're going to come upon is to explore possibilities. So Philip, he's our guide here. Philip is an example of us to a disciple who learned how to explore possibilities with Jesus. In fact, Jesus taught this to him from the very first interaction that they had together. He said to him, "Follow me." That's a statement of possibility. There's a lot of possibilities in that. Do I follow? Do I not? Ended up changing his life because he followed. Then Philip offered that same possibility, the offer of possibilities, to Nathanael. You remember what he said to him? It's your verse there. Come and see. John 1:46. Come and see. He opened up a new possibility to him. Just come and see. That's all I'm saying. You don't have to commit to anything. Just come and see him. One possibility can change everything in a person's life. Think about back to your life. The possibility of knowing Jesus, it changed everything. What possible options do you have before you? So you might have possibilities for ministry, you might have possibilities out there, and the possibility of Jesus for other people. Are you sharing that possibility? As we talk about possibilities, there's one phrase that I love. My mom used it today. I won't take the time to tell the story though, but it's I wonder. I wonder, those two simple words can open up so many things to you. I'll give you a few examples. I wonder how I can meet more non-Christians. I wonder how I could minister to my neighbors better. I wonder how people view me as a Christian. Just start any sentence that you're thinking about with I wonder. And let God stir in your spirit to open up new possibilities. I wonder what is it for you that you're wondering what Christ might have for you, what a ministry you might get involved in, where you're holding back. Start with that question, just those two words, I wonder. It can open up closed minds. You're like, well, I don't know how to do it different. I've never done it different. I wonder. Another great thing is if you have a curious friend or you have someone who they ask a lot of great questions, get together for coffee with them and say, hey, help me brainstorm ideas. Some people are really, really good at that. Get together with those people and help you see new possibilities of how you can serve the Lord and where you are right now, whatever situation you live in, no matter what stage of life you're in, how God might be pushing you to be more of an adventurer for him. My husband and I ended up living overseas for 18 years, and we really started with that. Oh, I wonder what it would be like to go overseas. I wonder. Then we went, and it was a long time. We got involved in a Bible ministry in Saudi Arabia because of the same thing. Ooh, I wonder, what's going on for ministry here? I wonder how we could get involved. We have 2 children adopted from Ethiopia because of that same I wonder question. We had gone to an orphanage. I won't take a long time of a story, but we'd gone to an orphanage in Kenya a lot and just thought, I wonder how it is for these kids just growing up. And that, sometimes one question can open a new possibility in your life. So the reflection question for you, is there a possibility in your mind and your heart that you've been thinking about? Maybe God's already started percolating something in you. If not, maybe this is the time. I wonder what God could have for me in this stage of life. I have my kids are 22 to 16. I'm in that stage of life. A lot of my friends are, just with one yesterday, oh, my kids are all gone. I wonder what God has for you in this stage now. I'm retired now. I wonder what God could have for you in this stage of life. Every stage we can ask that. Is there a possibility? All right, so you're on your journey. You've thought about who you are. You're aware of your zone, what's comfortable for you, what's not. You've explored some possibilities. Then it's time to commit. Commit to something. Matthew is our great example of a disciple of committing to the journey. After Matthew was given the possibility to follow Jesus, he committed. He walked away from his tax collecting life to follow Jesus, all in. That's Luke 5:28. It says Matthew left everything behind and followed Jesus. Now, sometimes I read the Bible. I don't know about you. I just read along. Matthew left everything and followed Jesus. Okay, stop for a second and think of that. He left everything. I want you to imagine you don't go out to your car tonight and you don't go home tonight and you just leave everything to follow Jesus. I'm not saying you should do that or anything. I'm not saying that's what we're here about tonight. But that's committed. When you say, okay, God, you've given me this idea. It's been nagging in my mind. I feel like it's from you, and committing. Okay, I love this quote so much. It's not from the Bible, but I think it's still a really great quote. There's a difference between interest and commitment. When you're interested in doing something, you do it only when it's convenient. When you're committed to something, you accept no excuses, only results. I love that. And it's okay to just have interest in stuff. I'm not saying not to do that. You can't be committed to everything you get an idea for. My husband's an idea guy. Idea. He has to think about those ideas, which is awesome, and then commit to one. But there is a big difference. Okay, so I'll tell you a very quick story. This is an adventure story. It's kind of one of those physical things, but I like doing triathlons. If you're familiar with those or not familiar, it's a swim and then you bike and then you run. And when we lived overseas, I think because we didn't have as much to entertain us, we would do things like this for fun. And I kind of got into them, especially in Saudi Arabia. And I always did kind of shorter distance ones. Well, they have these things called Ironmans that I always thought, oh, no way, I can't do that. So that was my zone. I'm like, I ran a marathon once. I don't ever want to do that again, because you have to run a marathon at the very end of that. But they have this thing called a half iron. And for years and years, I've talked about, I'm going to do a half iron before I'm 50. It was an interest. It was an idea. I wasn't really doing anything about it. So this is 70.3 miles swimming, biking, running. So it's a feat, don't get me wrong. So then I'm 48, and there's this one in Salem, and it's next summer. And then a friend said to me, oh, I think that one's already full. And I was like, what? That means I'm 49 next summer. That means I can't do it before I'm 50. And I always said, and so I got on that line that night, and he was wrong. And so I talked to my husband, I was praying, and I do really have if you want to talk to me after why I do these, but it is a really great time with God too. You have a lot of time to pray when you realize how weak you are very quickly. And so that I signed up and I did it. Now I feel very different. I was interested for years and years. Now I'm committed. So you can ask me, how's the training going? But there is a big difference in that. Besides, I'd love to reach my neighbors for Jesus. I would just love to see okay, well, what are you going to commit to do about that? What is God telling you to put your time and your commitment to? After you explore possibilities, you have to ask God what he wants you to do. When Jesus said, follow me, Matthew got up and he followed Jesus in Matthew 9:9. So what possibilities, and this is a process, this takes time. I'm not saying right now to go, this is what I'm committing to. But this is a journey. Hopefully you're going to go on over and over these 7 coordinates. So at this time in your life, I do hope you'll take some time and think, what possibilities are there? And then what am I going to commit to? What is God asking me to really commit to? So after you commit to something, you've percolated what it is, and you've prayed about it, and you said, okay, God, I'm going to do this. Then you get to coordinate number 4. Prepare for the unexpected. In every adventure you're going to go on, every new thing you try for the Lord, every new thing with parenting, you're going to have something unexpected happen. Andrew is our example of this. I'm going to do this for a few of the disciples, but at the beginning of each chapter, I'm writing things in their own words. So the first few pages of every chapter in this book I'm trying to get published is the disciples speaking to you from their first-person voice. If any of you watching The Chosen? Awesome. If you're not, you should. Yeah, it's awesome. It makes the reason I like it so much is it helps us to see disciples and biblical characters as real people. That's my Esther book that Carly's going to talk about. That's what that all came from, is seeing them. They were just like us. They struggle with the same things we struggle with. So I'm going to read just a paragraph here from Andrew's perspective too. What do you mean some unexpected things happened with Jesus? It seemed that every single thing that happened with Jesus was unexpected. Meals came from unexpected sources. Jesus talked to people I never would have imagined. Money was used up, and then somehow more seemed to appear. People were healed in a variety of ways. Storms immediately stopped, and my boat almost sank twice from an overabundance of fish. I never knew what to expect during the days I spent with Jesus. So do you ever think of that for the disciples? How they just had to be like, ready to, okay, what do we do? What? Where are we going? Okay, here. That probably wasn't very easy for a lot of their personalities. Some of them maybe, but some of them, that was probably really hard to feel comfortable with. Just this constant, what are we doing? Andrew showed a lot of ways that he learned and was growing in being prepared for the unexpected. I'll just say one quickly. He was following John the Baptist, who told him, there's the Messiah. Boom, he went and followed him instead. Unexpected that that's what he was doing that day. Actually, I'll do one more. Andrew was the one who brought the boy with the fish to Jesus. I like this because this ended up leading to the feeding of the 5,000. But he asked the question. He brought it like, can you do something unexpected with this? But he still asked the question, how far can this go among so many of us? But he still believed enough to bring it and say, what can you do with it? I believe you can do something unexpected. So we can prepare for things to happen. So you notice coordinate 4 is prepare for the unexpected. Prepare. Yes, we should prepare with logistics. My dad was really good at that. He was good preparer and planner. But we also want to prepare in our mindset. And my dad, if those of you that might remember him, he was careful and cautious and a planner. But when it came to telling people about Jesus, he was an adventurer. He would talk to anybody about Jesus, stranger or not. He would preach the truth of the Bible. And so he prepared his mindset to be an adventurer for Jesus, preparing before experiences happen to be ready to tackle the adventure, regardless of what comes. So Jesus is our example for this also. When his time was coming to be on the cross, he prepared his mind. He took away time away from everybody to prepare, to ask the Father for strength to endure. He also asked that it could pass from him, but he did ask for the strength to endure. We can also prepare our minds because the Lord might have different plans than we have. In fact, he probably will. At least I found that true in my life. I don't know about you. But it doesn't always go exactly as I have my plan laid out, right? He has unexpected things coming, and I think he does it on purpose. Jesus didn't give the disciples a roadmap very far out into the future. They were just hanging on for the ride with him. Most days with Jesus, they didn't have an understanding of what was going to happen that day, let alone years into the future. Jesus developed that mindset in Andrew and the other disciples of completely depending on him rather than trying to figure it all out for themselves. And that is really, I think, how we prepare our mindsets the most, is like the disciples, to look to Jesus, to trust in him and believe in him. If you look to Jesus, you trust him and believe in him, your mind is going to be prepared for what is coming, the unexpected. Because you always know he knows. And if you look to him and you trust him and you believe him, your mind's going to be prepared for whatever is coming down the road. So this means we have to let go of control. That can be hard. I don't know about you, but that's a little hard for me, letting go of control. It means I have to embrace an attitude of submission and learning and saying, okay, God, you're in control here. I'm not. Maybe the ministry you wanted to really succeed, it didn't go very well. Maybe the neighbor you'd been like witnessing to, they don't seem any closer than when you started. Maybe the time you put into a project, it didn't bring the results you hoped for. I've been really in this boat too. My husband and I, as Carly mentioned, we have a coaching business, but we were both in it full-time, gung-ho, and it didn't go as we planned. COVID came along, that surprised us all. It was tough. We're trying to raise 4 kids. They're starting to go off to college, and we have both our livelihoods is in coaching business. Well, in the middle, we're kind of like, God, and I can't say we're 100%. We're still questioning at times, why did we start that? But for me personally, God knew, because all that learning I did in starting a business and growing through that, now in my position at Corbin University, I couldn't do what I'm doing now without having gone through that experience. So I couldn't see the end. And you don't want it to go like that. You want it to go easier, right? Why do I have to go through the hard, unexpected stuff to get to that? But for me, I can look back and say, okay, that wasn't as I planned, but God did see the end down the road. He could see it. Actually, I was telling someone, and I'm going to share it here. My second daughter, her name is Anya. She turned 20 yesterday. And so I got to see her. We had a family birthday dinner 2 nights ago. And I got to see her for lunch. And she was saying at lunch, I don't really know what I'm doing. We're having a worship night. But then I don't know what I'm doing after that. A friend's coming down. But this other girl's having a big birthday party. And she invited me. And I don't really want to go to her birthday party. But what should I do? What Anya didn't know is that her boyfriend and I had planned a big surprise party. All these people were coming after this worship night for a surprise party. And it just makes me think of that. She was kind of, just a little bit like, kind of a what should I do here? And a little bummed, you could tell that, it wasn't going to be a big night or anything fun. And she didn't know that the surprise party was waiting. Isn't that kind of like us sometimes? We're just like, what's going on? God, what are you doing? And he's just like, oh, just wait. I've got a surprise party for you. You'll be okay. So God has that. I love this verse. Deuteronomy 31:8 says, the Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. So as you are stepping out, maybe it's across the hall where you live. Maybe it is at the school with your kids, you're there. As you are stepping out for Christ, saying that thing, doing that thing, to know God has gone before you. Yes, unexpected things will happen, but prepare yourself to trust in him, to look to him, and he's going before you. So your reflection is, how can you prepare? Not only with logistics, while those I think are wonderful and important and good, but in your mindset for the unexpected things that God might have coming in your life. All right, on our adventure, we go to coordinate number 5. This is my favorite one, I think. Every adventure, anything big you try, you have to embrace the awkward. I just love this one because it's true. You don't know how things work when you're trying something new. You don't know what's going, how this conversation's going to go. You don't know if it's going to work or not. Our Peter is the best example of all. Peter had to embrace the awkward so many times in his journey with Jesus. But being willing to do what God calls you to do may cause you to feel awkward as well. And the more you can embrace this feeling and say, okay, look, I'm an adventurer for Jesus because I feel a little awkward right now. That's good, okay? So take that as good. This is part of your journey. So Peter was kind of that jump in, think before he speaks kind of guy, emotional. I relate to him at times. And he seemed to find himself in so many awkward situations. But God used that because later on, that same personality really made a difference in the world for Jesus Christ. But he had to learn. He had to learn, didn't he? Just like we do. John 21:7. As soon as Simon Peter heard him say it is the Lord, he wrapped his outer garment around him, for he had taken it off, and jumped into the water. Okay, he actually got in the water twice. And the first one was all cool as he was walking along until he awkwardly sunk. But this time he's just like, it's Jesus! And he jumps in the water. So a little awkward, this guy. He just kind of goes for it. Maybe he had some funny stories to tell later. Some of his awkwardness were kind of silly things like that, right? He jumps out and he just swims back as fast as he can. But then it got pretty, intensely awkward for Peter. And sometimes that can happen in our lives too, where it's not just funny awkward. So they were heart-wrenching situations where Peter did things without thinking, and it didn't go well. So while Jesus was praying in anguish in the Garden of Gethsemane, Peter went to sleep. Not one time, but 2 times. I mean, that's really awkward, right? Your teacher, he's in anguish, you can see it, and you just keep falling asleep. And Jesus is like, Peter, come on. It's awkward. You feel embarrassed. I'm sure he felt embarrassed. Same night, in this bleary, sleepy state, he cuts off the soldier's ear. He's trying to be all brave, right? And then Jesus just looks at him like, oh, Peter, okay, no more of this. And he puts the ear back on. That's awkward. He's trying to be all macho, and instead he kind of gets chastised. Like, come on, no, that's not how we're doing it. And heals the ear. Of course, later in that evening was the worst part of all. He was bold. I will never deny you, Jesus, never. The same night, he has to face the fact that he denied Jesus 3 times. So that was awkward. When you say something, oh, I will never do that, and then you've done it in the same night, but he had to keep going from this. A lot of people get shut down when they feel uncomfortable, or they fail, or they say something stupid, or it doesn't go how they were hoping. They say, ooh, I'm not going to do that again. That felt really uncomfortable. And this is kind of going back to know your zone. For some people, this is really, really hard. This might be for you, where it's like, oh, I don't want to feel awkward. I don't want to feel uncomfortable. I want to be in control. For other people, they have the toilet paper off their shoe, and they're like, whatever, right? So know where you are and ask yourself that question. Has this stopped me at all? I don't want to feel awkward. I don't want to say something wrong. I know for a while, with witnessing, we used to witness all the time with Pastor Bob, and we'd go and then I had a period of time where I was not seeing people, making progress to the Lord, and I was even like, maybe I'm saying things wrong, I don't want to say anything wrong. Maybe it's better just not to, because I don't want to say it wrong. That's just shutting down because I didn't want to feel awkward. So your question is here, how can you see awkward moments for Jesus as a positive thing in your life? So when you embrace those awkward moments, this might be kind of counterculture to what we think. Nobody wants to be awkward. Nobody puts their most awkward pictures up on Facebook. Nobody is like, oh, yay, that was a really awkward situation for me. But I want you to embrace it, and next time you step out and you do something that you feel Jesus nudging you to do, or the Holy Spirit's nudging you to do, and you do it and you feel a little awkward, I want you to go, yes, I feel awkward. Becoming an adventurer for Jesus, okay? Try to remember that. Embrace the awkward for Jesus, not just for the sake of feeling awkward, unless you want to. All right, so coordinate number 6. So you're on your journey. You've looked at possibilities. You've made a commitment. You're preparing for unexpected things to come and to have a mindset. You're embracing the awkwardness of it. Now it's persevering. Persevere to your purpose. This is coordinate number 6, and our disciple John is a great example of this. When we think of adventurers, we think of their moments of glory. Okay, the guy's on top of Everest with the flag. The woman has just swum the English Channel. That's the moment of glory. Oh, it's wonderful. Someone preached and 10 people came to know the Lord. It is amazing, okay? Those are awesome moments of glory. But those moments never happen without so much hard work. So much hard work. On July 21st, I hope I cross the finish line still standing up in my triathlon. But it is going to take 9 months of hard work. That's the part that scares me, not the day of. The 9 months of hard work. James 1:2-3 says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know the testing of your faith produces perseverance." Okay, I have 4 kids. 2 of them are 16-year-olds. They are adopted. They are wonderful, but they are hard. And it is day after day, and you probably know, or if you have children that are not walking with the Lord and you're praying for them, the perseverance of, okay, today, I can do this today, what God's calling me to. I'm looking at my time and seeing, I'm not going to read in John's own words to you, but let me summarize it just a little bit. Imagine John here. So it was tough for him at the end. He was exiled. He was the last one of the disciples still alive. So if you think of that, he watched everyone or heard of every single one of the disciples die before him, including his brother that was beheaded. Okay, he's exiled. He was in a storm on his way there. And then he's given this job he has this revelation, this vision, and he's given the job to write Revelations. It's a huge task. He's old at this point. Maybe he was thinking, God, I can hardly see anymore. My eyes aren't what they used to be. And is this even going to get off this island? What's the point of this, really? I'm stuck here. No one's ever going to read this. But he knew that God had told him, write this down. And so he persevered to write it down. He probably thought about heaven a lot, don't you think? He thought about being with Jesus, being with the disciples again. Sometimes it's hard when you are persevering here on this earth. That isn't always the easiest place to persevere. Okay, I know that with my dad. It was tough. And my mom, I'll give a shout out here to Mom. She persevered every single day, serving dad. Oh, I can't get emotional here. Not yet. But she kept a positive attitude and she served my dad. That's hard. It's hard to do. But the Bible promises that what is impossible with man is possible with God. Luke 18:27 tells us that. And a life lived with perseverance for the Lord's purpose is only possible when you depend on his strength. When you're going through that really, really hard time, that sickness, that frustrating relationship, persevering is what gets us to those glory moments. When you're an adventurer for Christ, just know that. It's step by step. You think of the people on top of Everest, it was one step by one step by one step to get to that moment of glory. If you're going to be an adventurer for Christ, don't expect it's going to feel like an adventure every day. Just do the next step, do the next step, do the next step. And then I know he's going to give you glory. If you don't see a lot of it right here, you know it's coming. You know it's coming in heaven as well. But I do believe he gives us those moments as well. Your reflection question: are there any ways that you have been trying to persevere on your own strength and you can depend more on the Lord? You know, we like to do it on our own sometimes. I got this. Oh, God doesn't have to bother with this one. I got this. But depending on the Lord for his strength in your life. Okay, and then you get at the end of your journey, coordinate number 7. And as I said, I hope this is a process, and I know in my life, and I'm sure you already have done this in pieces, but hopefully it gives you a little language and thoughts to it. You're going to do this over and over again. It's not like a one-time thing. You just have one adventure in your life. And I think I kind of thought that after we lived in Kenya, oh, we had our big adventure. That's it. No, this is adventure. Then it's just recently I got the awesome adventure of I met a lady at a networking event and we just started talking about Jesus. She came to know the Lord. We're doing Bible study. But I had to start those conversations. I had to feel a little awkward because, you don't know where somebody is, how they're going to react. So doing it again and again and again as Jesus puts opportunities in your life. But this one's really important. Coordinate number 7 is reflect to grow. And Thomas is our example here. He's the disciple of coordinate number 7, reflecting. Romans 12:2 tells us, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Renewal of our mind, transforming our mind, and then we know what God's calling, what he wants you to do, what's next for you. Okay, so I need you to go back to coordinate 2 for a moment and explore possibilities with me because Thomas, he's our example. As I've been reading all this and really researching the disciples, I feel bad for Thomas. He gets such a bad rap. We all have his nickname right on the front, right? We tell our kids, don't call people names. We all call him Doubting Thomas, okay? So I want you to open your mind a little bit here, explore new possibilities that maybe Thomas was a little deeper figure than we all give him credit, right? Sometimes we do that to the disciples, and some of them we barely know anything about. So yeah, we can't know them too well. But Thomas, he was a doubter. That's it. So for a minute, I want you to have open mind to learn a little bit more about him. Now, this is my take. I am not saying this is biblical knowledge, but I am trying to imagine him a little fuller, and maybe he did what he did. So I'm going to read you a long one from in Thomas's own words. I'm a thinker, a processor, a realist, filled with curiosity. As a boy, my mom would tell me to stop daydreaming and get going. My dad would tell me, quit asking so many questions and get to work. I always wanted time on my own to think, but between completing my chores, having a big family, and living in a small home, it wasn't always easy to have time to myself. There were questions I wanted to find the answers to and problems to be solved. Not many people seemed to understand my way of thinking when I was growing up. Then I met Jesus. For the first time, my questions and curiosities were validated. The time that I craved to be alone, to think, and to pray was valued, as there were times Jesus wanted the same thing. When I would ask him to explain something to me in a deeper way, he took the time to answer my questions. He looked right at me as though he understood the way my brain worked, and he didn't shame me. With Jesus, I never felt stupid when I asked a question or when I tried to understand more about what he was saying. I loved him for that. I remember the time when he said he was going away and assured us that we would know where he was going. The other disciples just sat there nodding, but I was thinking, what? We don't know the way. How are we going to find you when you leave? No one else seemed to have those kind of questions. When I asked them out loud, I saw some roll their eyes as they often did at me, but I couldn't help myself. I didn't really care what they thought anyway. How would I find Jesus when he was gone if I didn't get the information now? When I asked where he was going, Jesus looked intently into my eyes, letting me know my question was important. He explained to me he was the way and the truth and the life, and none of us could get to the Father except through him. During those 3 busy years with Jesus, there was always people around us. It was rarely just the 13 of us. As the next layer of disciples past the chosen 12 always seemed to be around, we were joined by others whose numbers grew daily. There were hundreds or even thousands of people around us at any given time. Some wanted to hear the message of Jesus, while others were critical of him. Many wanted to be healed, and others just seemed bored and came around for the excitement. With all these people around, Jesus and I both found ways to have our needed time alone to think and to pray. Sometimes I would sneak away from it all and go find a place of solitude to be alone, even for just a few minutes. Usually this was not a problem. I could leave and return without missing too much. If the group had moved on to another spot while I was away, they were always easy to find. However, my successful streak of not missing much while I was gone changed the day that I missed Jesus' return. You have to understand, we had all been stuck in that room together for way too long. Jesus had been crucified, and none of us knew what to think. Everyone was nervous and impatient, but those feelings were combined with the optimistic hopefulness and anticipation for what was going to happen next. All the emotions swirling around had just become too much for me, and I had to get some time to myself. I couldn't possibly sort things out in my head in that place where someone was always talking or singing or crying. I had done my fair share of those, but I needed to be alone just for a little while, so I headed out for a walk. It was while I was gone that he came. They told me Jesus came right through the wall to stand in front of them. He reassured them it really was him. He was alive as he had promised. All the disciples' hopes were renewed in the fact that Jesus had said to us, that what he had said before he died was coming true. When I got back, they were ecstatic. They had seen Jesus. Everyone was trying to tell it to me all at once, but I was not ecstatic. I was completely confused. If Jesus was really alive, why would he have chosen to come while I was gone? Could it really have been him, or were they mistaken? Then one day, there he was, right in front of me. He looked at me with those eyes and smiled, inviting my questions as he always had. There was no rush as I asked him my questions, and my doubts were relieved. He didn't shame me for doubting, but validated my need to see him for myself and to process all that had happened in my own time. Then it hit me. That's why he came that's why he chose to come to the other disciples while I was gone. He planned it that way so that when he came the second time, it was just for me, so I could get the proof I needed and have time to ask all the questions I wanted to. He gave me the individual time to ask him every question I needed. How else could Jesus have given me this gift unless I had been gone the first time he appeared? Every day since, when questions arise, I tell the Lord how grateful I am. Thank you, Jesus, for knowing me and giving me exactly what I needed to trust you more. So that's just my take on Thomas, that he was a reflector. He grew through that, and Jesus knew that in him. And so for some of us, that's really natural. We like to think things through and ask powerful questions of ourselves, of others. For some of us, that's hard. We're rushing through life and we don't take time to think. But Jesus was an example for us of that. Jesus, he made time to be alone. There are so many examples. When he was grieving, when he had decisions to make, when he was in distress, when he was worn down from work, he made time to be alone. And a lot of those times were for prayer. He prayed to gain wisdom and understanding. Jesus also asked powerful questions, like I just mentioned. I love his questions. They were deep questions that made people think. Who do you say that I am? Do you want to get well? Why are you so afraid? Why did you doubt? And do you love me? These are all powerful, reflective questions that he asks us. We can ask each other, and we can ask ourselves. And last but not least, maybe important in a women's group, is Jesus knew the value of rest. When we're exhausted, it's really hard to be reflective and learn from something and say, okay, God, here's how this went for me. Here's what I want to do next time, and really reflect to be ready to start that journey again. So your reflection question, I'm getting you to reflect. See, I'm trying to help you in this process. How do you reflect in your own life to grow and be transformed to live out your faith? How do you take time to think about that? How am I doing? How am I coming across? Am I stepping out of my comfort zone for Jesus? Am I being an adventurer in whatever ways he's calling me to? So as I said, this is a process. I pray you'll go through it again and again and again, and not just sit still in your comfort zone. You got it all figured out. Push yourself, whatever that means. One little step, push yourself out to be an adventurer for Jesus, because he needs you. He wants you. He wants you to be a part. He's put you very specifically where you are with the people in your life to touch them and be an adventure for them and for him. So take that with you, spend some time reflecting, and I'd love to talk to you after. So thank you for letting me talk today.
Thank you, Maryanne. I know we need to take this back and reflect, because you gave us a lot of things to think about. And it also makes me realize I want to read your book when it gets published. So really, take these home. Think about a time in this next weekend even, where you can just reflect over these questions. Take 30 minutes and take a look. We're going to have discussion questions that are a little different than the reflection questions. But I wanted to share with you that Maryanne has brought some of her books, and your last thing on Thomas makes me realize what kind of writer you are. One of the books that I haven't read and I want to, have you ever thought about Esther as a political thriller? Well, Maryanne has taken Esther and made her as a Jewess going to Washington, D.C. to marry a playboy who gets into politics, using the story of Esther as an example, as a template for it. So this is out here, out in the... I'm sorry? It's clean. It's clean, yeah. It's Maryanne, it's clean. So it's out there on the table where you picked up your name tags. The second book that she has out there is the one that she mentioned, Your Adventurous Life Awaits, and it's some of the same principles that she talked about today, but more for a general audience. She also has a workbook that goes along with this. So if you're interested in any of those books, there's a basket on the table. All the books are $10. So you can just put your $10 in a check or cash in the basket and take the book that you would like. And we're just so excited that you're here today for us. So could you put the discussion questions up for me? Oh, thank you. Okay. So at your own table, you either volunteer or recruit somebody to be the leader to keep us on track. And we'll have about 20 minutes to go to the discussion questions. So there you go.